about this. You've never been at this exact moment in this exact place as this exact version of yourself before. Whoa! I'm Bronkar Lee.
And I'm Cindy Harvell. We believe that when we approach the journey of life with curiosity, joy, and a desire to grow, we can have a powerfully positive impact on the world around us.
Join us for conversations
and explorations
that will change your perspective,
shift your mindset,
and inspire you to get out there and spread the good stuff.
Spread that good stuff.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Spread the Good Stuff podcast. I'm your host, Bronkar Lee. I've got a very, very, very special guest today. We're going to jump right in. This guy is a phenomenal musician, composer, performer, and educator. He's got hundreds of millions of views through his individual videos on YouTube, etc., as well as his collaborations with others. He is my performance partner for keynotes and concerts. He is also my soul brother. Please welcome Aaron Williams. Yeah.
What's up, Bronkar? Thanks for having me.
Bro, we're going to have some fun, man. I'm so excited to jump in here and talk and just get in here. I really want to steer this conversation, because when we do our live keynote events and performances, we talk a lot about the IEI, which is ignite, expand, integrate. And we talk about that cycle and that process for people to go through. And so I really want to just unpack that a little bit and hear a little bit more of your perspective, with your life's journey here, as we always set the tone with the oath of possibility, which is our life is a journey. We've never been at this exact place, at this exact moment, as this exact version of ourselves before. Today, we give ourselves permission to explore, to be curious, to receive old information from a new perspective, new information with an open mind, and to be reminded of things we may have forgotten. So, with
well said.
Thanks, buddy. I've said it once or twice.
Sound like you practiced that.
Right. Yeah. But I want to ask you, what was the ignition point for you, that inspiration when you felt ignited inside of you, and I'll let you take it in what area you want to, either as a performer or as a music educator. What really inspired you and ignited that spark within you to move forward in such a way that you have with your professional career?
Yeah. And I guess I'll start by just saying thanks again for having me. I'm very excited to be here. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I like the way you framed that question just now, because you made the invitation for me to reflect on being ignited as a performer and as a music educator. And I've often thought about how similar those are for me and how similar all the things I've been ignited by kind of are throughout my life. When I was young, I was first ignited by seeing someone. I think I was in 5th grade and the high school band came to our elementary school, or maybe I was in 4th grade. Yeah. And I saw all of these different instruments and they gave us an opportunity to try out the different instruments. So there was trumpet, clarinet, flute, percussion. I tried out all of these different things. And I loved the trumpet. Actually, back then, I wanted to play trumpet in 5th grade band, but I couldn't play trumpet because various reasons and affording an instrument and all of this stuff. So I just kind of quietly let the opportunity pass me by. Although my mother knew I really wanted to play trumpet or be in music at all, and she could see that I was a musical kid. So in 6th grade, she talked to the band director. I had no idea she was doing this. And she got me into band as a 6th grader. And I started percussion my 6th grade year. So for me, it's always been seeing what's possible and then wondering, could I do that too? That looks amazing. Could I do that? And if I could do that, what could I do with it? What would it look like when I did it? So it's always been that way. And at first it was with percussion. And that was when I was in 5th and 6th grade. I honestly thought back then that I was just meant to play percussion. This is such a beautiful thing. I was so excited by it. And I started getting into it and practicing it and started getting good at it. It's like, this has to be my calling. I'm a percussionist. And that's what I announced to all my friends in 6th grade. I'm going to be a percussionist. And then this didn't happen until maybe my mid-20s. I had this epiphany as I realized that I was really getting into tap dancing and really wanted to become a better pianist and really wanted to become a better singer. And I was starting to do music education more and more. And I was so passionate about trying to be a good music educator. And I realized that what it really is that I see someone do something well and I I see the possibilities like, oh, it can be done that way. Wow, I had no idea. I want to do that. And it was with you. I saw you at that TED Talk in 2012. I was like, what? Bounce juggling and beatboxing or speaking or being this extremely engaging individual on stage. Like knowing all these things are possible. Like, oh, I want to do that. 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 So I get ignited and then I have to try it. And unfortunately, there's only so much time in the day, so you can only try so much. So I'm constantly trying to find the balance between how much am I going to pursue or let this ignition, this particular instance of ignition, ignite me to actually try something. Or how much can I pursue that curiosity? How much can I pursue that curiosity? And you know me, we talk all the time. You know how curious I am about everything, not just music, but about everything. And you and I talk about all things under the sun, including politics and religion and the cosmos. So you know that I get curious about everything pretty easily. So for me, it's always been a balancing equation. Like, what do you do with that curiosity? And you mentioned those other parts of IEI. You mentioned the integration at the end, which to me is always the challenge because that's where time commitment and time management really come in. So I don't know, I'm kind of meandering with this question, but I definitely do think that there are a lot of parallels between the education and the performance. And I kind of treat them the same in terms of you have to learn what is possible, what other people have learned, because you can reinvent the wheel, but that just takes so much time and energy. I did eventually get that lesson for some of my mentors. So you can't reinvent the wheel all the time. You can, but it's going to take you a lot longer to get where you want to be. And then another important one is just that time commitment that you and I mentioned. And then, of course, having mentors in the first place. I'm kind of meandering, but let me pause there.
That's right on point. Back at you. That's right on point, bro. I think it's because that in that integration realm, there is a prioritization, filtration that things have to go through because we only have so many hours in the day, and there's lots of studies around this. But essentially, if you're getting 8 hours of sleep, you got 16 in the day, and a certain amount of those are going towards, your basic, whatever your relationships, your basic needs, survival, all the different things, work, et cetera. And so how do you prioritize? And I think, for me, I always think about the return on investment of, as I'm pouring in, what am I going to get out? And that could be selfishly for me, or it could be cultivating a skill that I know I'm going to be able to use as an effective tool to, enhance the quality of a relationship with someone, or to teach more effectively, or to, lead more effectively, or do business in a more, kind of compassionate way or whatnot. So I'm always kind of looking at that. But what does that kind of prioritization process look like for you, being someone that is so ignited by all the possibilities and so curious about life? How do you kind of filter things?
Yeah, good question. And I guess I can share, in this podcast, something that we do share with our audiences at some of our keynote events, which is a very simple process that I use with my students, because teaching, I see all the time how easy it is to this challenge. This is one of the biggest challenges, right? You get taught something, you're in a class or a tap dance class or whatever it is, you have all this information and you go home and then you're excited and you're ignited, but there's just so much stuff. And I'm still guilty of this. I have just manila folders from years filled with workshop notes. And I was like, ooh, I highlighted this thing. I wanted to incorporate that into my teaching, or I want to teach this song to my students, or I want to try this thing. And I never got around to any of it. So helping people integrate is one of the big things that we also try to do when we work with people. So for me, one of the things that I share is this simple 3-step process, which is the first word, the prioritize, which you just mentioned. Prioritize. It can be as simple as choosing one thing that you definitely want to incorporate and integrate. And then the next process is to make some kind of a time commitment, a schedule. And then the last part is to actually stick with that and hold yourself accountable. So it's really easy. Prioritize, schedule, which is where the commitment comes in. For me, and everybody's different. For me, step 2 is the hardest part. Once I've made a commitment, though, I'm there. I'll be at the marimba every day for 4 hours, or I'll be at the drum set every day for 2 hours. So for me, just getting that point of commitment where I'm like, I'm actually going to do this. Yes, Aaron. Yes, I'm saying yes. Let's do it.
Right.
And then the last part is accountability. Who are you accountable to? And for us, it's really easy because I'm accountable to you
Yeah.
when we work together. Or when I'm teaching, I'm accountable to my students. I have to show up with the stuff ready for them. But a lot of things, when I'm just accountable to myself, like working on some new piano skills or incorporating some new marimba solo into my rep, those kinds of things are a little bit harder because, you have to create or seek something to be accountable for. But if they're really important to you and you commit, then usually finding accountability isn't that hard to do.
Yeah. Well, now I love this, bro. And, we're talking a lot here about technical skills, right? Technical skills, fixed skills, but also I'd love to explore what does it look like when we're leveling up our emotional skills, our soft skills, our communication skills, our skills of compassion and things like that. The internal dialogue, narrative and kind of rewriting that. What might that look like as far as being able to, because I love that the three steps there of the, prioritize, schedule, and be accountable. How can we apply that 3-step formula to more of the soft skills and emotional intelligence?
Excellent point. I think the biggest one is just to understand and recognize that there's not a difference. It's not like, oh, here's social emotional skills. Oh, here are technical skills. They're all the same. They're just skills. And this is one thing that I had to learn from others, which is that even something as simple as the process of communicating, that is a skill itself that can be honed and improved. The process of critical thinking. People aren't just born critical thinkers. Most humans are not, as we probably would agree on, but you can get better at this skill. And I remember very clearly because at the school that I was working at, our staff was having not necessarily butting heads, but we just needed help. We needed some facilitation in terms of being able to communicate with each other. Because at the school that I was teaching at this point, it was very collaborative. And we were always working with each other, trying to reschedule things, trying to get group stuff done, trying to accommodate each other's needs. And it was much more malleable of a schedule than I'd ever worked with before. So just that process of making all of these changes all the time was driving people crazy. And the director of that school hired a specialist to come in just to talk about communicating in a very easy way, in a very transparent way that doesn't accidentally forget, to be accommodating to the other person. And I have books on my desk right over there about how to engage with people, how to ask questions, how to have hard conversations. I have books about this stuff, and I practiced it. I practiced it on my students. Don't tell them, but I also practiced it with other people just in random conversations. I've learned a lot practicing with you because every business relationship, and ours is a friendship, but it's also a business relationship. Our business relationship, we've had so many courageous conversations, and we call them courageous conversations because it never ends, right? We're humans, we're social creatures, we're always going to need to have these skills.
Yeah.
So for me, that happened literally about 4 or 5 years ago when I finally realized these are skills that I can improve. Before then, I thought people were just born amazing communicators like yourself or have their own inbuilt limitations with those things. I didn't really see it the same as just practicing skills on the piano that you can get better at. But it really is the same way. It's a little bit different because the emotions that come with communicating with another human in a social setting are much different than the emotions that come from just sitting down and practicing a technical skill. But they're still very much the same.
Yeah. Well, and what's so many cool things that you just said there. But one point that I want to make is that, no matter if it's, managing a team, working with a team, teaching people, educating people, or delivering a message, performing, all of those require the soft skills and the emotional intelligence. So it's kind of like it's the skill within the skill, you know what I mean? And that's such an omnipresent skill that's within basically anything you want to share with people, And I love what you said though, about having your epiphany, 5 years or so ago, where you realized that, these soft skills of communication and things are skills that I can actually improve upon. I simply identifying them as skills, right? That just being able to name that, and there's a lot of amazing people that I like, that I follow. One is Dan Siegel, who writes a lot of books, The Whole Brain Child, and he does a lot of learning and development. And, he says, name it to tame it. And once you put a name on something, then, suddenly you can talk about it and you can bring it more into conversation. And so just identifying that, hey, that communication is a skill. Storytelling is a skill. Listening is a skill. All of these things are a skill. Self-regulating, right? My emotions or your emotions, that's a skill. All of these are skills. And once we can start to name them, then we can start to understand them. We can be curious about them. Then we can really lean in with that mindset of curiosity. And then suddenly we can explore the possibilities of what it might be like for us to strengthen those skills. So I love that awareness that you brought in there. And how have you seen those skills enhance the quality of your relationships with either other staff members at facilities, or also when you're teaching people, when you're trying to convey and share knowledge in the hopes that it will become wisdom with them, with kids and adults?
Hey, great question. And it's interesting too, because some of these skills, especially the social emotional skills, they also enhance your awareness. So it's almost like a switch has been turned on. And when you're communicating with people, you're a little more aware of how they're receiving you, which changes the way you communicate with them. So it's almost this positive feedback loop. And I'm sure you've experienced that a lot, because I know I work a lot with younger humans. I know you work a lot with adult humans as well. And with adult humans, it can be a little trickier, because I feel like, and this isn't necessarily the case, because I know you're a dad, so you get pushback from your kids a lot. I know, I've seen it. They're amazing, by the way, love them. But I just know that there's a little bit of difference in the dynamic when you're an adult teaching a young human, as opposed to teaching or talking or communicating or collaborating with a peer.
Yeah.
And so there's a little bit of a difference there. So there is a lot more care that has to go into, or thought that has to go into, how you communicate with someone that's a little bit older, because they don't necessarily assume that you're an authority. Because when you're a kid, everybody who's bigger than you is like an authority on everything. Yeah. But when you're a big person, it's different. Yes. Suddenly, like, wait, why should I listen to this person? And you have to break down those barriers before you can even talk to them. So I'm actually really curious to know, for me, I see you in action and I'm just in awe all the time. Like, wow, how does he do this so efficiently? And I know that you've practiced this and you've thought about it, and you've told me about some of the training that you've gone through and some of the mentors you've been accountable to and some of the ways that you've leveled up. But I'm curious to actually ask that question to you in terms of how you maintain kind of this I don't know, that kind of self-awareness. I don't know how you actually engage with someone. Like, what are the things that you're thinking of when you engage with someone that's an adult? And it's going to be either information that for them could be emotionally sensitive, or maybe it's something that they haven't thought about before, and it's new information for the first time that you're introducing that could give them a little flight or fight,
Yeah. Well, that's a great, and I love you asking me questions. Thank you. Thank you for flipping that. So, and like you alluded to there, it's like the oath of possibility, new information with an open mind, old information from a new perspective, or, remembering things we may have forgotten. And so as we can hold that at the forefront of our minds, put that into our mental search engine, that's what we're searching for, that's what we're reminding ourselves of, then it suddenly puts us fully in the present moment here. I'm right here, and there's a door in front of me, and that is a door of opportunity. And if I choose to open that door, I'm going to walk through that door of opportunity, that door of possibility, and I'm going to explore something new. There's going to be new territory, even if it's a conversation that I've had before with, someone 5 years ago, 10 years ago, yesterday, whatever it was. I just left that conversation. It's still a new moment here, and there's this door of possibility, this door of opportunity that I'm walking through. So for me, the context definitely makes a difference as to how I approach it. Because I consider myself, my number one skill is communication. That's what I, when I think of like, what am I really good at? It's like communication. And I just love that, because there's so many subtle skills that come together to create the super skill of communication, because that's just a broad topic. But for me, the environment makes a huge difference. So what kind of an environment am I in? Am I addressing an audience of 10,000 people, or am I talking one-to-one to somebody? Is there a counter in between us? Are they customer service and I'm the customer? Am I the teacher and they've hired me as their coach? Maybe they're an executive, maybe they're a leader, but they've hired me as their personal development coach. That's going to create a different dynamic. Versus if I'm talking to my mom, you know what I mean? So there's always the environment, then there's the agreement or the contract between the parties. Is it one-to-one? Is it one-to-many? What's that environment like? So that's going to determine how I approach it. So if I'm in a one-to-one environment, then I'm going to be improvising with the social cues that they're giving me. I'm gonna match their tempo and their intensity level and their dynamics of speaking, of their body language. All the mirror neurons. I'm going to be matching what they're giving me. I'm going to essentially understand that, acknowledge it, and possibly reflect it back. Which is kind of classic NLP training, neuro-linguistics programming type stuff. So maybe I'm going to reflect that back to them, or I'm going to use keyword backtracking, and I'm going to repeat what they say. And a basic way of that is like if you use the language of it's a great day. I love the autumn. It's like I might reflect that back and say, oh yeah. So yeah, I love autumn too. And it is a great day today before I say whatever it is that I'm going to say. So what we're doing is we're creating our own little microcosmos here, our little language patterns that we're sharing together. And it's all musicality. We're creating a song together, essentially. I'm taking their language. I'm going to reflect it back. I might add my own intonation or inflection. I might sing it or speak it slightly differently. Maybe they're super intense and I match that, but then I bring it down a little bit and I say, hey, let's take a breath together. And I do this all the time with my boys, because my two boys are very spirited. They're full of life. And sometimes I need to redirect that energy. And in order to redirect it, I need to kind of calm that down, center that, breathe into it. And then we can find a new healthy outlet that we can channel it into. So those are some practices that I use in the one-to-one setting. Now, if we take that over into a group setting, which is, as I spend my second home is the stage, so it's thousands of shows, for, multiple decades. So it's, when I'm going to present to 1,000 people or 10,000 people or whatever it is, now suddenly it becomes a bit more complex, because what I'm attempting to do is I'm attempting to present a monologue, but make it feel like a dialogue. So it's only, me or you and I, that I'm the one with the microphone and everybody else is listening. And so they don't have that opportunity to engage with a question or a comment or a reflection or, to add to the conversation, so to speak. So now the depth of thought that's required for this is infinitely deeper, infinitely more complex. There are much more moving parts. In a conversation one-to-one, it's like playing checkers. You move, I move, you move, I move. When I'm addressing 1,000 people or 10,000 people, it's more like chess, and I've got to think move to move to move to move to move. I've actually got to play the whole game without them getting any moves in a sense, which is a really fun way to look at life, So then I'm thinking about, if I say this thing, what question might someone have in response to that? And then I anticipate that and I say, now I've got to answer my own question, or their own question that they might ask. And so then I'm going to make a statement, and then I'm going to answer the potential pushback or curiosity or whatever that might be. And then I'm going to take it somewhere else. So I'm thinking step, 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 step. And this comes from actually a combination of both of those realms, a lot of one-to-one conversations with different types of people, as well as a lot of performance, settings, because one of the most complex parts and challenging parts of public speaking is the practice time, because it's very different than the technical skill of, right? Of like,
yeah, you're preaching to the choir.
right. Yeah. All right. Okay. I want to practice saxophone more. Great. Just go practice saxophone more. I just in my soundproof room or whatever your typing skills or math problems or, science exploration, whatever that may be. Any of those, any technical skills, learning that knowledge, right? Public speaking, it's like, how do you simulate that environment? Right. The only way to get better at public speaking is to publicly speak, so that becomes infinitely more complex. But anyway, let me tie a bow on this for the moment and pass it back over to you to insert, because, when you open this can, for me, communication, public speaking, all this, that could be a 5-day seminar with no breaks.
Yeah. It absolutely could. Thanks for sharing all of that. And this is what I mean. You have so many skills and so many just little tips and a lot of things that have become completely intuitive to you, that someone like me would hear some of these things. And we've been working together long enough to where a lot of these I've heard before, but go back 10 years, 5 years, and some of these would have been completely brand new to me. And I really love the analogy of the music in terms of how you engage and how you're listening. And that's what it really comes down to, is the listening. But it's not just listening, because you also have to know how to deliver. And that idea that you're the person with the microphone, but you're trying to have a monologue that feels like a dialogue. Like, I love that. So, and also just for the audience, this is something that Bronkar has helped me with in terms of learning how do you practice public speaking? Because I perform, I love music, and I speak and I teach, and I facilitate as a music educator. But I don't necessarily go on stage specifically just to speak. It's usually, for me, my preference is to go on stage to perform or to play music or to deliver something in a musical way. So to deliver the ideas and the content without necessarily having to hide. I shouldn't use the word hide, because it's not really hiding. Yeah. It's really using it in an efficient way, but without being able to hide behind a marimba or piano. It's such a different beast. So Bronkar, for the audience, this is definitely something that you've helped me with a lot and continue to do. So, I don't know, where do we go from there?
Well, I also want to make it a little bit more about, the listeners here. And that's, the skill of performing in public speaking. That's a skill that can be applied in everyday situations. That's the skill that communication, that fundamental skill that can be extremely valuable in any situation where we're interacting with other people. Like I said, in the customer service situation, if you're at the store, or if you're, there's so many countless literally every day. I don't know how many interactions I have, but it's like I'm conscious of, I'm going to implement this skill. I'm going to try this thing. I'm going to do that. And a lot of it comes with me teaching, taking my boys with me and showing them how to communicate with people in order to, selfishly get the best deal or get the greatest return or get the whatever it is. But also more than that, which I really focus on, is how to bring out the best in them, how to make their day a little brighter, how to search for the smile so that you're filling them with a little bit of ignition, inspiration, so that they might expand and then integrate or adopt a new way of thinking or whatnot. But to give them that good stuff, so to speak, and fill them up with that. But what I was going to say is, for everybody listening, it's like, anytime, if you're on the phone with somebody, there's skills. If you're on a Zoom with somebody, there's skills. If you're driving a car, there's skills. All these communication skills. Certainly, if you're leading a team, that monologue dialogue thing that you just talked about, Aaron, having that awareness and thinking about that's obviously direct. If you have a group of 10 people or 100 or 1,000, you can anticipate the collective consciousness. And you can anticipate what a lot of those questions might be. Certainly in a one-to-one too, if you're having, as you talked about earlier, a courageous conversation, which you and I have. We've been in a relationship for a decade now, and we don't always get along. We don't always see eye to eye. Yeah, right. Of course. Yeah. And you know what I say, a little bit of tension keeps the guitar in tune. So I think it's healthy. Right. when you share your opinion or your perspective and it may be opposing to mine. And then I say, well, let me pause and really hear that from that perspective. And then like really soak that up. And then when I can do that, then I can speak from a new perspective and a new angle. Or maybe I'm slightly changed myself and I've grown or evolved or heard something new, but I'm open to that possibility. So I think that's, a few points here. Let me pause there. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think this is such a good point for everyone who's listening to this podcast, is that this isn't necessarily a skill that you have to be using with a particular goal in mind. Like I want to incorporate it into what I'm doing with my team or with my office or with management or with my students. This is the type of thing that levels up every aspect of your life where you're communicating with people. And it's also just a self-fulfilling aspect too. And it's going to make your life more enjoyable and less painful. I mean, just as something as simple as dealing with traffic, I was surprised because in LA, traffic is my number one. If I can deal with traffic in LA, then I'm happy here. Like even worse than the sun and the crazy hot temperatures here in the valley, it's always about traffic with me. So these skills, this is really interesting. We haven't talked about this yet, but these skills actually apply to the way that I drive, because I see someone driving now and they do something weird and I'm a lot more forgiving, because now I'm in the state of mind where I'm like, well, maybe they came from blah, 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 or that wasn't intentional. And if it was, and if it's actually a dangerous situation, then I'll handle that differently. But I can take my emotional reaction out of it and look at it as just a situation that's a need for communication. And driving is such a communicative thing that we do in society. Unfortunately, everyone doesn't understand that. But I'm not going to get into that right now. But yeah, just for the listener, though, I think for someone watching this segment and thinking like, well, yeah, this all sounds great, but I'm not going to go out and give a keynote speech, so I don't really need to worry about this. True, you don't have to worry about it, but having these skills constantly, improving in small incremental ways, or putting some attention into practicing just the way you communicate with people, or reading a book or watching a speech or something about some communication skills or the social emotional stuff, you'll be surprised at how much those little things can really enhance just your enjoyment of life. Yeah. When you show up at the Starbucks and the person is totally overtaxed, and then you come and bring this really simple energy and you're easy to engage with and you're forgiving of them. Or like me, last week I was at Best Buy. I've been trying out different computers. And there was one moment when I was waiting around for over 30 minutes, not a single person even said hi to me. And I felt myself getting angry. And then someone finally came and spoke. And I felt myself wanting to complain, but instead I was like, well, okay, he just showed up. He's been working with all of these people. Let's try the different approach. And we just hit it off right away. And it was one of my best experiences at a Best Buy. Ended up coming with something that I really liked. And we actually talked. I saw him again recently at Best Buy, just randomly on his way out. It was funny because he remembered me just from that little moment. So just little things like that. You make friends with people and it's just easier, and you get the things that you need, and people want to help you, and then you want to help them. It's just, there's so many benefits to all the information and all the skills. So I just want to reiterate that for the audience.
Yeah. And it can be one of those things where, unless you have that awareness, you're not aware of it. You know what I mean? It's just like, you're like, wow, that was a really pleasant experience. Wow, that was really fun. Man, I kind of want to go back to Best Buy and just hang out. It's like, who says that? Aaron says that. That's who. But but it's really good. One thought that came to my mind was a way that we can practice this to level it up. And this is something that I do is every day, I think about what I'm typing into my mental search engine at the top of the day. What am I searching for? And just like, we open up a browser on our computer and we type in a question, we're going to get the answers to that question. The same thing happens for our own personal thoughts. What are we putting into the forefront of our mental search engine every day? And when we can type certain things in there, think certain things in there, like, how am I going to help people today? How am I going to bring out 10 smiles in people today? Things like this. And we start to ask those questions, then we start to look for that, just like we would, if we, when we, you start like with my boys, we play I Spy, and everybody's played I Spy, and you say, I spy with my little eye, something yellow. Obviously, if I say that right now, everybody watching this is going to see that yellow sign behind me. right? You're going to see that. And so because now we've collectively put that on the forefront of your mental search engine. And so you're going to find that. And the same thing applies with how we approach life, playing that I spy game. You know what I mean? It's like, I spy in my third eye and my little mind, it's like, what am I typing in there? And so then we're going to be searching for that, right? And in any situation, because wherever you go, there you are, you know what I mean? And so it's just like, yeah. So playing little games like that. So my invitation for everybody listening today would be tomorrow morning when you wake up, or actually when you stop this podcast, when this ends, just ask yourself, what am I typing into my mental search engine today? Right. And then think about that and think about what comes up for you. And just doing one simple thing like that every day at the top of the day will help to give you a North Star, a beacon for the day.
Yeah, I really love that search engine analogy because I immediately knew what you were talking about the first time you mentioned it, because I noticed that when I've recently searched for something, I do start to just notice it and see it more. It makes you more aware. And at first I was wondering, wait, is this some kind of weird magic trick? Why am I noticing all of these things all of a sudden? Like, have they always been there and I just never noticed? And I think the answer is that they've always been there and I just never noticed. Yes. And all of those opportunities have always been there and you may just have never noticed.
Yes.
But when you put yourself into that mindset, that expansive mindset from IEI,
yeah,
suddenly you start to notice these things.
Yep. And that's absolutely it. And inside of that IEI, that integrate, ignite, expand, integrate, that's that expansive mindset. That's getting into that expansive mindset. It's like, oh yeah, those questions of curiosity. What are we typing in there? Mm-hmm. What are we typing in there? And that is true. It's always there. Right. And whatever, like we just discovered this again. And I know we're going to wrap up this podcast in a moment here, but like, we just experienced this with Cindy, my wife. With Cindy, she said, I want to do some more camping. And we were like, okay, cool. And then we just looked up state parks. We were like, what would happen if we hit all the state parks in Georgia? How many are there? And we typed, there's 48 state parks in Georgia. Holy cow. I had no idea there were 48. And I'm like, that's amazing. And the thing is these 48 state parks, they've been there. I don't know how long, they've all been there for different lengths of time, but they're there, they're existing. And it was like, I didn't know they were there. And now suddenly, we've got that like on our minds. We've got that there. And now I have a vision board over there that has those state parks on there. And then a couple of things that go along with it. But that's part of the vision now, because that now becomes a visual affirmation vision board that's going to remind me, oh, those 48 state parks are there. And then I'm going to see that every day. And it's going to remind me and help put that on the forefront of my mental search engine. And then I'm going to actively engage, booking campsite, going there on the weekends or whatnot. But those parks have been there. We just discovered them by asking the right questions. And it's like, how much information is there out there for anybody listening right now? There's answers to those questions in your mind. It's just about asking them and searching for them, and then being inquisitive, being curious, asking those questions of curiosity.
Yeah. And asking the questions is so important too, because it allows other people to be your search results. Because I remember very vividly, this is, I guess 2 years ago now, when I finally decided I have to get my own marimba. It's time. And I suddenly put that out there into the universe and I started talking about it. I was talking about it on Facebook and I was actually doing searches online. And suddenly 3 different opportunities to get a 5-octave marimba came into my life, all within a 2-month span, which was crazy. After 10 to 15 years of never having a marimba, never thinking about owning my own marimba, just because they're so big, I can't really travel with them, et cetera, et cetera. I was like, you know what? Why not? And then suddenly, within a few months, I had a marimba.
Yeah.
It's crazy how that works, because other people come into your life that maybe have results to that search query, and they can help you with anything.
Yes. And those questions of curiosity inside of the query, right? But the questions of curiosity, what would happen if I had a marimba? I wonder what would happen if I had a marimba. I know that there's marimbas out there, right? There are marimbas out there. Are there marimbas out there? Yes, there are marimbas out there. How do I get one? Oh, cool. wow, so it is possible. And that's that oath of possibility. And it is possible. And that's a new doorway of possibility there that you walked through by asking those questions of curiosity. Suddenly you got those answers. And now you have manifested a 5-octave marimba. So the question for the listeners, yeah. Congrats, bro. So the question for the listeners is, what do you want to create? What do you want to see? What do you want to find? What do you want to discover? And start asking those questions of curiosity, typing that into your mental search engine, and then opening those doors of possibility. So, Aaron, is for the people listening, because we're going to wrap this up and we're going to do another podcast for everybody. We're going to have a part 2 to this. So if you're enjoying Aaron Williams, aka Aaron Grooves, then he is going to be back, because we could talk for days and days and days and days and days. The Investies and Soul Brothers and all that. But for the people listening right now that are interested in checking your work out, how can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah, the best way is through my YouTube channel, Aaron Grooves, Aaron, Grooves. But I'm sure that'll be posted somewhere in the description. You can find me very easily. You can also search Mario on Marimba. That's my first viral video. And oftentimes people find me easily by just searching for Mario on Marimba and they find my video. But that's the best way.
So Aaron Grooves on YouTube, and then Mario on Marimba as well, which was a video, very successful video with hundreds of millions of views, and very, very, very cool and very successful. So awesome. Well, Aaron, it's such a delight to vibe with you here, brother. And I'm looking forward to the part 2 of this. And for everybody listening in, thank you so much for joining us today. Keep in touch with us and get out there, take the energy, the inspiration that you're feeling right now, expand in some way, integrate it, and spread that good stuff out in the world, because the world needs you to shine your light brightly and sing your theme song at the top of your lungs. So get out there, spread some good stuff, and make the world a better place. Thank you, Aaron Grooves.
Thank you so much. You rock.
Thanks for listening to Spread the Good Stuff podcast.
If you like what you're hearing, then join our community at spreadthegoodstuff.com/community.
In addition to this podcast, the Good Stuff Network puts on group programs, live events, and retreats, all infused with music, meditations, laughter, and real authentic connections with amazing human beings.
If you got some value today, do us a favor and spread the good stuff by sharing this podcast with your friends and family.
Spread that good stuff.